Skillsoft presents ETStudios HRConnect in association with ET HR World. A very warm welcome to our panel today. We're spotlighting revolutionizing talent, how AI and HR tech are reshaping the skills game. Now, in today's unprecedented era, we have AI that is impacting every single industry, be it banking or manufacturing, and with rapid technological advancements in these industries, it has become imperative to reskill and upskill employees and make sure that they are future ready. Now, these learning journeys also have to align with the strategic goals of the organization. And to find out exactly how we're covering all that ground, please join me in welcoming our distinguished panel of HR leaders for the day. We have with us Vishal Kukreja, who's the head HR at RBL Bank. We have with us Alok Vatsa, CHRO NRB Bearings, and join me in welcoming Divyesh Sindhwaad, who is the VP and country head for Skillsoft. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your valuable time. Now, let me start off with the very first question. We're at the beginning of 2025. How do you think AI and HR tech are going to be changing your respective industries in the coming year? And also, what priorities have you set for yourself and your organizations? I'll start with the panelist close to me, Vishal.
So thank you. That's a wonderful question. What is happening is that AI is able to now do a lot of wonderful things. And in many of these things, AI is able to do that better than maybe a human being, right? So therefore, all the monotonous tasks that are involved in the process of talent acquisition are going to get automatized and are going to move to AI. So all the scheduling, maybe the first round of interviewing, etc., is going to be out. Now we are dabbling with an AI technology that can, let me start by saying, that can make a job description, that can then figure out what are the questions that my recruiter should ask, let's say the prospective candidates. It can record interviews and automatically process the top candidates. And it can give my, senior people who are making the decision in the talent land stream a sort of a guideline to say these are the profiles that you should look at. And to top it up, some of these interviews are happening with, the application of behavioral sciences. So whether the interview is fudging, whether the interview is confident, AI and systems are able to figure that out. So this is a level of accuracy that is very difficult to achieve by a human interviewer, right? So all elements of how you select talent are going through a change. Now, obviously, this is what the technology can do. Everybody in the industry is at a different stage, so it's going to take some time. But I am sure that the talent acquisition landscape and the talent identification landscape is going through a huge change.
So that sounds very futuristic indeed. Are you noticing a similar trend in talent acquisition and HR tech in an industry such as manufacturing?
Yes, absolutely. We are actually hiring a lot nowadays, and for our future plan as well of expansion that we have at NRB. And we see as technology is growing and evolving, we also find that it is useful for us to make better decisions per se. And in talent acquisition particularly, we feel that we can use the new technology as well as AI possibly in better evaluation of candidate, whether it is at the time of screening or whether it is at the time of getting skill assessments done or even psychometric assessment done, which is possibly not very easy for a normal recruiter to assess and analyze the responses. Maybe it is much more convenient to have an AI do those analysis and do a better prediction, right? We do a lot of skill assessment and competency assessment as well. And maybe this AI and HR technology will be able to better assess the skill gap and suggest possibly a learning journey for a new hire in terms of the gap and what training that we would require to curate something which is customized to the person and to quickly ramp him up to the expected levels for us.
It's significant how AI can cut out human bias if you can streamline the model, of course. So that's very interesting.
Yes, absolutely. I think in the diversity part on the hiring side, maybe AI can help us reduce biases and maybe flag out certain questions or maybe responses and our analysis of those responses, and to kind of reduce the biases. Maybe then we can have a much more equitable playing field for all diverse candidates that we would get.
Well, it's sounding like a win-win there for everybody involved. Divyesh, you work with myriad clients across industries. What specific trends are you noticing in industries such as banking and manufacturing when it comes to HR and L&D?
Fantastic question there, Shilpa. I think, we have the luxury of actually sitting as a partner and observing these organizations as they are going through a lot of evolution around skilling, reskilling, and taking it to a transformation around the workforce and all of that. And one of those dynamics that is really playing a big role over here is in terms of the focus on growth. Now, if you see in today's macroeconomic context, most organizations are looking at growth, for the future, and even from an employee context, there is this very, very high focus in terms of what's in it for me, how do I grow to the next level, how do I equip myself with skills and capabilities and all of that. And these dynamics are leading to a lot of trends. And I'll talk about three. While there are plenty, there are these three trends that I will talk about. Number one is in terms of, as we have been discussing, the AI part. How do I bring in AI, accelerate investments in AI to drive organizational agility, skill development, and other initiatives to prepare for the future? So that's the one thing which is, of course, top of mind for everybody. Beyond that, if I look at it, the second one would be in terms of being more impactful. Today, every conversations that we are actually driving with our customers, the focus is not just in terms of driving a program, but looking at the end result that they want to get out of it, and making sure that every investment that they are making is driving the right outcome in the context of the organization. So that's a beautiful trend in my mind. And finally, one part that I will touch upon is something that I've personally observed, is this gradual shift in terms of moving the ownership of driving that organizational culture towards learning, to go outside just HR and L&D to the whole group of stakeholders, senior leaders, managers, and everybody, because it's a co-ownership that we are seeing now, which was not the case a few years back. So these are my top three trends that I have observed, to be honest.
It's staying on reskilling and upskilling. Divyesh, let me take that across to Alok, especially with Industry 4.0 here. I'm sure it's very significant for you, and also it must be a challenge to have to constantly make sure that your employees are reskilling and upskilling. As an HR leader, how do you ensure that this process is met with enthusiasm and also that it's a meticulously formulated one?
Yeah. So I think you rightly said, we are also on a journey towards preparing for Industry 4.0, and we have had multiple work streams currently going on. Automations, which is a higher focus on automation. Apart from that, we are doing a lot of robotics internally and putting in various robots in different places in our manufacturing processes. And all this requires a lot of technology upgrade, not only for the people who are working on it, but also people who are actually curating, designing, implementing applications of it as such is also required. So there is a shift in terms of when a normal automation to what it is currently with a robot as well in place. And then also our continuous changes. We have a very unique thing in our manufacturing because we have thousands of different SKUs, different sizes of bearings. So every time the machine has to be reconfigured and others. So every time you change a technology, you bring in a robot, you bring in a new automation. Now that has to be as flexible and as scalable as the changes in the manufacturing process are happening. And for that, then there is a lot of training requirement that comes in. Right? And these are very specific to us. It will not be generic. It will be curated for us and then made available across locations for all our workforce to access it. And that is where a lot of HR technology in terms of learning management systems would put in place. And to anticipate what is going to be the need at different locations for different people when a new technology has been put in and what they would require to be trained. And if you already have that somewhere online, it is much more easier with the HR technology available to curate that journey and to upskill those people as such. So we are in the process of doing that archiving. We are in the process of making those curated learning journeys for people who are going through that change and who are anticipated to be moving into a new technology or new way of working as such, both at our manufacturing places as well as our R&D centers where we do a lot of research and development and looking at future technologies that may be coming in and then rolling out into the manufacturing plants. So it is, I would say, a lot of change happening, and HR technology in terms of learning management systems, and maybe if we can have something more in terms of artificial intelligence to have even a better predictive sense as to when we should start and when we can actually, when the implementation happens and how the journey can move forward. I think that is something which we are currently working upon.
Well, I'm realizing that you have to factor in so many variables and juggle them at the same time, sir. And similarly for you, you're a customer-facing bank. So when it comes to your employees, how do you make sure that their learning journeys enable them to develop their interpersonal and communication skills in keeping with your organization's strategic goals?
So that's again a very good question. Let me say that customer experience and security are two key themes that are today driving the value chain in banking. So the first part is how do you make sure that your relationship managers and your employees are able to serve the customer with what the customer needs, which means that they should know what is it that is up in terms of the offerings, what offerings do suit this customer the best, how do you pitch it, how do you make sure that this makes sense for the customer, and then how do you deliver that service. And the second part of this is this: how do you make sure that you educate customers at large about how to keep them and their money secure. So this requires, because at the end of the day, there is a technology war that's happening, right? So every time you would have heard of these different kind of new and newer ways of duping customers, frauds, etc., etc. So making sure that you stay ahead of the curve on security is important. So this requires a lot of reskilling, making sure that the learning is given to people at the time at which they need it. So I think what the revolution in people's attention spans have taken place thanks to the Instas and you know how people interact with content. So today, I don't think people pay attention in a one-day classroom as much as they used to do. So today, what do you need to do as technologies to make sure that if I'm meeting you and I'm going to pitch, let's say, a certain product to the bank to you, then that information around that product, if I want to refresh it, should be available to me at that point in time. So making sure that your learning management systems then are available in such an organized, symmetric way to people that they can access this information in the time of need is much more important than dragging people into long classes and teaching them on how to, etc., etc. And because this can be delivered with technology, this can be hyper-personalized, therefore, today the focus is on changing the way we do reskilling. So that's the limited point I want to make. Now, for this to happen, of course, one, people have to be technology conversant. Two, people have to be able to see their updated content. You have to get people into a certain habit of checking a few things. So this is what we work on.
That's very interesting to know that the learning has to be timely, but also the access to information also has to be timely in a way that it's at their fingertips. And as you're saying, it can be done because it's also hyper-personalized. Now, you mentioned a few of the challenges sir, but what would you say is the single most challenge that you are facing as an HR leader? It could be in HR tech, it could be in L&D. What is the challenge that you are facing and how are you tackling it?
So I wouldn't say challenge, but the new technologies always bring in lot of opportunity. And I think that the first step to realizing any opportunity is awareness. So for me, the important thing is that everybody in the organization is aware of what technology can and cannot do, and then is aware of how they can approach, who they can approach to make sure that they can get their tasks automated, or that they can get their, the processes they are involved with, how technology impacts them, etc., etc. So to create an environment where people can then come up, learn, and ask questions. As an HR leader, that's, I feel, is my key job, to make sure that this is enabled and that in this environment then the change takes place.
So previously as well you mentioned awareness when it comes to customers too, because of the rampant frauds that we're seeing. You mentioned the same or better awareness needs to be there for your employees, and so important financial awareness is paramount. And also, so is physical safety, and that's also so important in an industry such as manufacturing. While AI, I'm sure, is elevating a lot of safety fears in there, I'm sure there are also challenges when you're introducing emerging tech into an industry which has been working in a rather classical manner. There was automation, but I'm sure AI has been a complete game changer. Would that be posing any challenges for you as well, sir?
So, you talked about technology into manufacturing and then health and safety as another aspects of it. I think the technology coming in the manufacturing has actually helped the worker in terms of health and safety. I talked about robots installation. Our priority has been to put robots in places where there is a higher risk of injury to the worker. So primarily reducing that and then also making it much more safer workplace for people as well, right? So technology enablement has helped us in terms of making our workspace much better. But at the same time, I think the challenge has been to have that technology mindset across our different layers of organization. Not only in the manufacturing plant at the last frontline worker that we would have on the shop floor, all the way to our engineering centers and research and development centers per se. So for HR in NRB, our challenge is to have this very diametrically opposite kind of profiles. One who are very tech savvy, the others who are absolutely kind of very basic on the technology part. And then when we talk about HR technology, then it has to be online, and that technology mindset has to be there so that people know that, okay, yes, it is available, but I don't feel very conversant in kind of using it. So how to cross that barrier for certain set of people, and then at the same time have a set of people who are saying, I want more. I can do more with this. Can you give me this? Can you give me that? Can you give me AI? Can I do better analytics? Can I do a better planning with the help of AI, right? So it's that very divergent set of people, and to bring them all at the same platform and then roll out so that whatever initiatives we take, the benefits is across the different divergent groups that we have within the organization.
So for you want to ensure that the development is cohesive. Fantastic indeed. Divyesh, how do you at Skillsoft help organizations tackle these sort of various challenges that they face?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting conversation, and I think, for us the North Star is always about where our customer is going and what is it that they are trying to solve for. Okay, and if I were to take the example of what Vishal and Alok spoke about, it could be as simple as working with a bank. Okay, in terms of Vishal mentioned that it's about starts with awareness. Okay, and driving that awareness through maybe a AI awareness program. Okay, at different levels, because different people at different levels need different understanding of the concepts, practitioner level to an awareness level. Okay, so how do we basically try and drive those programs accordingly at scale? So that's number one example as such. Okay, the other one would be in terms of, you mentioned about customer centricity. Okay, how do you drive that mindset around customer centricity? What are those resources that you can make available to your employees so that they are able to articulate in their mind what customer centricity means for a bank like RBL, and how do they basically approach a customer every time they meet with that in mind, and how do they drive it? Okay, to a cyber security awareness. Now, a cyber security awareness program for a salesperson sitting at a branch, to a person sitting at the head office and working on the next level of mobile app, okay, will be very different, and the level of expertise will have to be very different. So how do you basically meet the learner and the organization at the place where they are? Okay, Alok mentioned about the robotics element and the different varied levels of maturity in terms of different people and their appetite for learning and all of that. So how do you meet them there where they are and make it relevant? How do you basically design programs which are aligned to the business objectives, but at the same time grooming the level of understanding of an employee to a level where they can deliver on the business impact at the level and the place where they are, meeting them at the place where they are within the context of the work that they perform in the organization. And we've been very fortunate at Skillsoft because again, we have one of the largest teams of professional services and customer success experts who come from that domain, who do this day in and day out, who work with our customers and as an extended arm, as a partner to drive these outcomes, which typically become difficult when you are driving it in-house. And that's how we collaborate with our customers across different industries and make it relevant within the context of their business.
With tailored solutions, of course, at Skillsoft. Now, looking forward, what are the sort of trends that you think are going to be changing the industry when it comes to the workforce in this era of AI? Alok.
So I think we talked about some part of it, particularly at the talent acquisition part of it. I would think more from a complete life cycle of an employee perspective, not just at the time of hiring, how do we do it, but also later, how do we manage talent as we move forward in terms of, not only in terms of their current skill gap and their current learning journey, but also how to prepare them for their next job, next role. How do we identify the best fit job for that particular person within the organization itself, particularly if there are a very multifaceted, multi-location and multi-functional organizations that we would have. And then subsequently as well as HR, we want to know the engagement level of the people, how they are, and how can HR technology and AI possibly help us understand the pulse of the employee through various surveys across different forums, across different platforms, which are enabled and aligned and synced together, and then give us some maybe analysis as to what's the level of engagement. Can we predict attrition much better? Can we foresee what intervention can we bring in at a certain point of time, so that to help us kind of retain talent, retain knowledge, and better utilize them as we move forward. So I think HR technology evolvement in these aspects, I think, are going to change how we manage people and how we manage their career journey within the organization, and how we manage the knowledge within the organization to better utilize that.
Well, it sounds like you're getting very rich insights from these data analytics that are helping both your employees and the organization. So earlier you had mentioned that the attention span of people has decreased rapidly, and that you are pivoting your learning journeys in a manner that is more accessible for people at various points in time. So how else do you think this changing workforce will be impacted in the era of AI?
So I think we are now moving to an era of experience, right? And technology is helping us drive experience. So whether it is candidate experience, which is essentially, you don't have to now if you're a candidate, you don't have to really come and appear for an interview, let's say, at a certain amount of time. You have an AI interview schedule that you can do at your convenience, maybe at 11 o'clock in the night or 9:30 in the morning, as it suits you. And to the AI evaluator, it doesn't matter at what time are you giving that interview. Or about employee experience, which is essentially of making things available to employee without their having to go through 23 clicks on your clunky system. But just because they can inquire from a chatbot, for example, and say, hey, can I apply for leaves? What are the leaves that are intersecting with holidays? How can I maximize, let's say, my leave output? And your chatbot gives them that answer. And if you say yes, it applies for that too, right? So it's like, how now I think Alexa or Google Home have penetrated, most homes, right? It is essentially like that the HR technology has to essentially be used by most employees, driving the experience of the employee up so he doesn't have to spend time doing rudimentary things, repeated things again and again. Technology takes care of that. At the end of the day, I believe that the success of all of this will be based on how individualized and personalized this is. If technology is able to personalize my learning, my experience for me as I want it, because let's say I'm an engineer and I'm inherently interested in technology. So if the technology can then satisfy this need, versus if the another employee in the system is more, let's say, sales oriented, and if the technology can satisfy, that's where we are going. And so in the future, we will measure the success of the HR functions by a mix of what we wanted employees to do and what employees wanted from us. Have we delivered on both counts? Right? And that's essentially the essence of employee experience. So for me, these are the true trends that are in vogue and that will stay in vogue for some time. Right? And the idea is to focus on them and to make sure that we get as close to our customers, as close to our employees, and meet them where they are. Divyesh is, used that beautifully. It's about meeting people where they are and then taking them along in that journey. If you can do that, you'd be a decent organization.
That's excellent to note, and it's great to see that technology has enabled that to make learning both individualized and personalized so that it is available at the employee's behest, and also great to note how it's helping the organization as a whole as well. Divyesh, I'll let you have the last word. You've had an overview of what they've said, and of course you have the industry overview as well. So do tell us about the paradigm shift that you are witnessing.
Yeah, I think, I'll start by saying that it's exciting times ahead. Okay, I think we are just getting started. While we have covered a lot of distance, we are just getting started in the overall scheme of things. And I think there's a lot of work and a lot of innovation that is in front of us in terms of personalization, okay, in terms of meeting people where they are, in terms of driving that productivity. And I think technology is going to play a big role in terms of improving the productivity and improving the experience and improving the engagement of our workforce, okay, to drive the right outcomes for the organization. And that's beautiful in my mind. And it's where we are. I think what Alok and I were discussing just before this is also going to be exciting, is in terms of, how do we take where we are today in our journey to Industry 4.0 and move forward and find ways to take it to Industry 5.0. So that will be an exciting stuff in terms of, continuing the conversation after this panel, and then looking at how we can, figure out a way in terms of where the industry is moving overall.
Absolutely. All right, so I'll wrap it up so you can take that discussion off screen. And thank you, dear viewers, for watching and being a part of our conversation. It's been great to note, especially through this discussion, how we usually fear technology as making a workforce redundant, as making humans redundant. But on the flip side, it's great to note how technology is actually an enabler and is helping employees reskill and upskill through personalized learning pathways. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you. And remember to stay tuned to HRConnect.